projects that myself, Cody, Dan, Rishi, and Hara have been working on as a team.
You might remember us from the couple hackathons.
Yeah, our first hackathon was back in December. That's when we actually created 2 programs. One was called GTFO, the other was called EWS Wrapper. And then we added a 3rd one for the Amazon Echo a month later in January. Post hackathons, we kept up with a Jira board tracking features and release roadmaps, actually working on the repos and making the projects a lot better than they were. They're kind of thrown together during the hackathon, so now they're like actual projects. 1.0 was really just MVP, or at least it was planned to be. It'll just be LEDs in every room, but then some of you might remember they shut off the Wi-Fi, and we were basically shut out of luck, so that didn't happen. What ended up happening was I had 2.0 planned with like a bunch of other features, and while I was waiting for the Wi-Fi, I just kept pulling features from 2.0 in, and it kind of flipped over. So like now we don't have the modules because we just don't have Wi-Fi. We can't do anything without that. But we have all these other things, and I'm going to get into what those things are in the demo. So our first program, EWS Wrapper, was mainly put together by Rishi and Harav, so I'll let one of them talk about it if they like.
Sure. Rishi, you want to?
Sure. Yeah, so it was a Spring Boot application, pretty straightforward, like most of our engagements that we have here with Spring, deployed as a WAR. You can deploy anywhere. You can deploy on Azure, you can deploy on AWS, we deployed on AWS for our project. And yeah, talking over REST, and then it integrated further down with the Outlook wrapper that they have. So what that does is that would be able to give you a list of meeting rooms which are available. You had to provide like credentials in order to do that. So we didn't really have a service account that we could use or leverage, so we were using one of our accounts, which is a bit of a problem, and it still is a problem because we're using my account right now to authenticate. So if you're seeing rogue meetings set up, set up by me, that's probably because we're testing it around. The other cool thing is it would send email notifications out in the event that
Yeah, maybe we've got a special.
in the event that someone shows up and they're interacting with the Alexa and they need help figuring out where a meeting room is or something like that, they would be able to send out an email notification to an office manager or someone who would be willing to accept that responsibility to help someone out. And yeah, that's pretty much it on the wrapper side of things.
Yeah, just to add a little bit, Office Dev, which is part of Microsoft, opened up this API, EWS Java API, which they made it open source, so they keep adding functionality to that. Anyone who had like trouble connecting to anything Microsoft, take a look at that API. It's pretty useful. You can just create a wrapper, and she did a great job on just making it so modular that you can just add services to the one that he created. That being said, the EWS Java API is updated periodically, so that just kind of opens up the kind of scheduling you can do using our application, because now you have the Exchange side of, or the scheduler side of it all figured out for you.
And that was just like an Outlook integration. You can integrate with any of Microsoft's products with that API, so that's pretty nice.
And anyone can integrate with our program.
Yep, absolutely.
So this is just like a module.
Yep, that's right.
And if one of you has a project and you're wondering, hey, I need meeting room information, you can use this.
Yes, that's my cue. So by the time the January hackathon for Amazon skills came around, we already had our nice EWS wrapper written in Java. So we kind of wanted to leverage that skill. So we went ahead and created a JavaScript Node application that we deployed to Amazon Lambda at the time to handle our nice Echo integration. It basically will provide any kind of real-time meeting information. You can also book conference rooms with it. I don't have to get too in-depth here because you all saw this a few months ago when we went through it, but we will be demoing some of the functionality in a bit as well. The newer thing that we've added is the ability to integrate with our GTFO modules. We actually have a nice client that Sean will be diving into. I don't want to ruin anything with spoilers here, but now we actually have our Alexa skill integrate with that client, which you'll see a nice demo of shortly.
I can't find the app.
Alexa, shut up.
TV series.
Alexa, stop.
You guys remember that TV series, Alexa, Shut Up? Love that. We're continuing to make some adjustments to the Alexa app portion. There's actually a pretty nice open source Alexa app and Alexa app server platform, which I know one or more teams leveraged during the hackathon. But it actually enables some nice flexibility, which we're hoping to integrate in a bit as well. One thing is, rather than being forced to deploy to Lambda every time, we can deploy anywhere we want, even if we want to set up our own internal app server to host other Alexa skills internally, we can do that. And what's the last one? There it is. We're also able to develop and test things locally by having a nice emulator set up. So rather than, if anyone else participated in that hackathon, you'll remember it's kind of a pain to test it because you have to zip everything up, deploy to Lambda, and use their on-site emulator to actually make sure everything works. Soon we'll be able to bypass that whole step and test things locally without having to zip and deploy every time.
Cool. So GTFO, that was the name of our original project group, but now it just refers to the thing that runs the actual light modules, and that runs on Node. That controls the room modules. It also serves the Office Inside Web Client, which I'll show in a little bit. It's not Slalom or Chicago specific, so it doesn't know anything about meeting rooms. It doesn't care about the actual location. It doesn't have any branding on it. Everything is programmatically generated from configuration files. And using these environment files, you can make any kind of office layout. You do need somebody to actually make a backdrop, so the layout, like blueprints. Other than that, everything is just JSON. And I also just want to brag about the test coverage. 94%. Across the server and the client. So WebSocket proxy, this is sort of a smaller program that we have. Turns out when we were working on features, especially integrating the Echo with the GTFO server, you can't make HTTP requests from outside of the Slalom network to inside the Slalom network. There's no open port. There's just IT won't budge. Believe me, I asked them. Nope, never gonna happen. And GTFO can't be hosted externally because it needs to be on the network to control the modules which are on the network. If it's outside the network, it can't talk to the modules. This was a really big problem because the Echo is hosted on AWS, although we might actually find a solution to host it locally, I think. But for now, it's hosted on the cloud, and also just the possibility of using other external services to interact with GTFO. That was something we wanted to do, and using HTTP requests was just a no-go. So what we did was create a server, sits on the cloud. Right now it's just sitting on Heroku. I think eventually we'll migrate it to AWS. It hosts a WebSocket server, and our server inside of the network connects to it as a WebSocket client. And then when we want to interact with an internal service, instead of making a call to that service, we make a call to our proxy, and our proxy just takes that request and just pipes it down to the WebSocket. So just a high-level overview, we have Exchange Web Services. That's the source of all of our meeting room information. When you book something through Outlook, when you book a meeting room, it goes in there. Then we have the EWS wrapper on top of that. It's hosted on AWS. And we have the Lambda, which interacts with the EWS wrapper to get information about the meeting rooms when you ask it. Then we have GTFO. This is currently hosted on a Raspberry Pi that's sitting on my desk. It's probably going to stay like that because it works really well. controls the photon, serves the web client, and also obviously talks to EWS to get the actual meeting room information. And then we have our particle photons, so one in each meeting room, one we get Wi-Fi. And then we have the browser client, which I'll show off next. And then we have the WebSocket proxy, which is how AWS Lambda can talk to GTFO. And the WebSocket proxy is a pretty lightweight application, so if we have any other IoT projects going on here and you have some application where you need an external service to reach an internal service, which is probably going to be a common scenario for some IoT thing, you can come to me, and like we could always modify this WebSocket proxy to handle the requests. All right, Java. So first thing I'm going to show off is the actual client. I'm going to paste this link actually in HipChat, so if you want to go on HipChat, should be able to go to that link. And this is actually a live overview of all the meeting rooms statuses. So we have a key up there in the corner. It doesn't usually overlap, but because I'm on the projector, it's kind of screwed up. And it should work on mobile. So you can see the colors. Green means it's vacant. Blue means it's booked. Right now we don't have any 5-minute warnings, 1-minute warnings. Nothing is offline. And I'll explain what occupied but no reservation means and how that works. But you can actually, you can see 53 here too. So if you're ever confused, like I don't really remember where rooms on 53 are, you can go on this and you can look at it. It's also intended to sit on the Pi TV in the lobbies. And that would be really helpful because how many times do we have clients coming in and they have no idea where they're going? So they could just walk in, they could see the map, and then they would know right where the room is. Like I said, this is all programmatically generated, everything down to the actual like flow marker. So right now I have this keyed in to say that it's in the east lobby,
have our first, like,
but you can actually change it pretty easily. Change it to where it's supposed to be located. So if we put one on the west lobby, we would just say in the query parameter, anchor equals west lobby. That moves around a little anchor. The actual labels, west and east lobby, those are JSON values with SVG coordinates. All the rooms are SVG coordinates. The bathroom icons are SVGs. And so like I said, this would be sitting in a lobby, and if it was keyed in to East Lobby, for example, we would have the echo sitting here, and the echo would also be keyed into East Lobby. So that would give us some cool features, like giving directions on the map.
Get in on that now.
Yeah. You know what to do.
Huh? Okay. Is it on? Alexa, open Office Insight.
Welcome to Office Insights. Ask me about meeting rooms.
Where is the loop?
The loop is located on the, I've highlighted its location on the map for you.
I'll look actually something for that one.
Nothing.
It works for Ravenswood. Alexa, where is Ravenswood?
I've sent along your request for assistance.
Alexa, stop.
Someone will arrive shortly.
The
email's coming.
Did you get an email?
Yeah, I got the email.
Alexa,
The meeting room's open at R.
Alexa, stop. Alexa,
There was a
where?
problem with the requested.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, open Office Insight.
Welcome to Office
Alexa,
Insights.
where is Ravenswood?
Ravenswood is located on the northeast corner of the 51st floor. I've highlighted its location on the map for you.
I think it should also work like this. Alexa, where is Ravenswood?
Ravenswood is located on the northeast corner of the 51st floor. I've highlighted its location on the map for you.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I put it on 53. So imagine if it's like sitting on 53 on a Pi TV, and you ask it, where is a room on 51?
The meeting
It
room's open
moves
at R.
it moves to that floor, highlights it, and then it goes back. Because you're on 53, so you want the default back to 53.
There was a problem with the requested.
That concludes the Alexa demo.
Sorry, I'm having trouble accessing your skill right now.
You gotta plug
I'm
it.
just gonna plug it.
Yeah, so the only other functionality I wanted, there's a couple more things actually, forgot. Before I get to the module, so I have one module underneath here, and I have it covered for a reason, but before I get to that, so we have one other cool feature here. So if you're looking for a meeting room for later in the day, instead of like going to Outlook and going to Scheduler and clicking on the meeting room and clicking view availabilities, and then Outlook crashes or some bullshit, you can just go to this. And
I mean, I've got the Fandango with a lot of things or account for my guys down there.
And you can move this to whatever time, and it'll actually change to show the reservations. There you go.
Sean, is this, when you scroll, is it making an API request or is it cached?
It's all WebSocket.
Okay.
So the server has it cached, but the client doesn't know anything about it. So it just makes a WebSocket request. Says, hey, give me this new state. The server just gives it the new state, and then it updates it.
So the node server is making the call to the Spring Boot application. And it gets like all the meeting rooms, all the times for one day. And then it does all the logic call from that.
And it only does that once every 5 minutes.
Yep.
And when you're asking it for later in the day, it's actually just changing the logic slightly to tell it, get rid of expired meeting rooms, except instead of saying expired meeting rooms for now, you're saying expired meeting rooms for this time in the future. And so through that, you get the new reservations, or you get the new room statuses.
Awesome.
And for now, I just made it go to 8 p.m. because nobody should be here past 8.
The only problem with that is you can't hold that as like a source of truth because, I mean, it might say that it's open at 4 p.m. right now, then someone might come in and book that room, you know, so.
Yeah, this is based on what people have reserved now, or within like the past 5 minutes.
It's not actually traveling in time.
Yeah, it doesn't have pre-cognition. That's not next release.
Server refresh, like let's say I book the room right now.
It'll catch it every 5 minutes. So Microsoft, we learned, sort of is really finicky about how many times you ping their service, and I think it was just like crashing for us.
They wouldn't, yeah, it would end up crashing, so.
So yeah, we just, EWS pings it however many minutes, and then GTFO right now pings EWS every 5 minutes, and then updates clients through WebSockets. I think maybe we could get GTFO and EWS talking over WebSockets, but.
So the API call you're making to Microsoft, they don't allow granularity in time less than 1 hour. So you do get back a response of like a 1 hour set. So what we decided to do is get like a full day of responses every 5 minutes from the node application, and then just send it back to them, and then they can handle all the logic on their side.
Okay, last thing I'll show off is I have one working module. It is on like a very hacky Wi-Fi solution, and it's not something that we can actually deploy, unfortunately, but it's just enough to sort of show off. This should actually be. Alright, so it's got a few more doodads on it, but it's obviously very much a prototype. And I wanted to show off the motion sensor, but to do that, I actually need it to be hooked up to a vacant meeting room. So it was blue before, that means that the room was booked, and so the motion sensor doesn't really come into play then. That might not work. Well, like I said, it's sort of a hacky solution, so it's probably not going to connect. It's fine. One more try. Oh. It's because my Wi-Fi switched. Okay. These things don't actually work if you're on separate Wi-Fi networks. So what happened was, I was on the same Wi-Fi network and then it switched, so it wouldn't connect. Okay. So if it doesn't detect motion within, I think it's like 5 to 10 seconds, it'll stay vacant. So the loop is the only one with this functionality right now because it's the only one with the associated device. So if we keep it still and I don't shake the table or anything, it should just stay green. But, oh, it's gonna freak out. The intended functionality is you have this sitting in the middle of a meeting room table, and let's say somebody's squatting a room. Squatting means it's not actually reserved, but somebody's sitting in there anyways. So if that's happening, you could actually see that on Mac.
And that's the darker blue or purple color.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little hard to see in that. It might be clearer if like you're on your phone or on your PC. The other thing you might notice, which you barely notice on the screen, zoom way in. That's really hard to see. Right there's the temperature. And that's just a little temperature board right here, so it's about 74 degrees in here, in case anyone cared. But it was just a cool thing. It's a really easy sensor to plop on, so I figured I'd do it. It'd be kind of cool to like collect data on the temperature across all the meeting rooms. It would probably be like super cold in that one corner we're in, over there. Yeah.
How'd you fix the sensor? Because I remember you were saying it would show like 3,000 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, I was previously using an analog sensor, which was garbage. It was like a 75-cent sensor too. So now I'm using the sensor that is basically its own little breakout board, and it's just got power and then something called I2C, which I won't get into because even I don't fully understand it, but that could be like a whole other ground bag how that works. That's pretty much it. Just a quick roadmap. So we have a few more features and ideas planned. Better local AWS Lambda testing and development, including a build system. Actual deployment of GTFO modules within each meeting room once we actually get Wi-Fi, whenever that happens. When that does happen, the client will automatically have some of those new features I showed you enabled. They're ready to go. They're just disabled because we don't have the modules hooked up. We also have integration with Occupy Stall Sheet. I don't know if I showed that. Oh, here. So right there, those are the actual stalls. And right now they're not accurate because their project requires Wi-Fi. But if their project was online, it would be giving us real data. And we're actually getting data from them right now to make that, I think. It's not accurate.
How are you connecting into Occupy Wall Street?
They have an API. And it's actually a pretty nice API, so we just integrate with it. And if the way GTFO works, like everything is configurable through environment files. If you give it Occupy Stall Street's endpoint, or any similar systems endpoint that gives like the same kind of information, it just works. And then GTFO, I have like a whole new feature set planned for when I am just bored and feel like working on it. We'd like to do some kind of desk overlays, user-friendly admin panel or ops to manage desk layouts. I don't know if you guys have seen Corbin, how she manages desk layouts right now. She has like a big piece of paper and like a bunch of post-it notes, like 20 post-it notes on it to keep track of desks and stuff. So it'd be really cool if we could just do that on here because we have the layout. And then maybe some kind of device so when people are traveling, if somebody from this office is traveling, they could have some sort of device on their desk that they could use to indicate when they're gone or when they're back. And so other people who are traveling just to visit our office, if they need a desk for a day or two, they could see, oh, this is a vacant desk and I can sit here for today. So does anyone have any questions on like just the client or like basic services, how those things work?
Are you planning on adding like analytics, like seeing people that maybe book rooms and never use them, or if you're vacant and they're booked a lot?
That would be really cool information that we could make available. I don't know if we would specifically do anything with it. I'm going to point out Matt Pfister now. So as part of the IoT competency group, we're trying to come up with like ideas for different projects, and that was one of them. And Matt, you had the idea of like having one program that could take all this data, not just from us, but like Stall Street, any other projects that pop up, and just analyze it, show trends, patterns, cool things like that. And what do you want to call them, Matt? Yeah, that's a cool name. All right, so if nobody has any questions about that, I was just gonna like dive into the code. So I was intending to break this up in case anybody who wasn't like a programmer wanted to come, but I think everybody here is a developer, so. So if you're interested in how these modules specifically work from GTFO, this is the library I'm using. It's Johnny5. You can find it on npm or johnny5.io. It's a framework that runs on Node. You install it just like this is a Hello World example. You guys see that? So it's literally 8 lines of code. And you require it, you make a board, and it looks sort of like jQuery. You're just saying board, when you're ready, do stuff. And here in the Hello World example, you're just making an LED blink. So the hardware side of this would be an Arduino board. You have it plugged into a USB port, and Johnny5 can find it and talk to it and make it do stuff. And it really is that simple. And that's the end result. Like that's the Hello World version of IoT. So specific to GTFO, I said everything was programmatically generated. This is what one of the files looked like that we're generating all these room stuff from. And it's literally just an array of meeting rooms. Every meeting room has a name, it has a location, and it has a device ID and a device auth token. Those last two things are used specifically to talk to the particle photon board. And it needs those because they're not connected directly to anything. They're actually connected to the Wi-Fi, which is connected to the particle cloud, which also talks over the local network using a library called Voodoo Spark. Voodoo Spark is the firmware that you load onto this. So we're not loading any custom software onto this. We're loading Voodoo Spark, and Voodoo Spark is making available a pretty simple API that Johnny5 knows how to talk to. And we just tell the device ID and the auth token for every board. And then if you go a step further and you want to actually configure the client to show individual meeting rooms, you have to give it SVG information so it knows like where to paint the square, what shapes to paint it in. Right now we just support rectangles, so if you have an office with like circles and shit, you're out of luck.
Okay.
And that's all it is, just height, width, X and Y. Absolute positioning over like backdrop, whatever backdrop you care to make. So I also wanted to talk about state management within GTFO. So we have all these things going on, and this was something I was thinking about pretty early on. When we first busted out the application for the hackathon, our state was just an object, just a plain object. And it would update the meeting rooms, so it would update that object. And then while it was doing that, after it updated the object, it would just tell the board, just change your LED. Which was fine just for like that one input and that one output, but now we're doing multiple sensors, we're doing multiple endpoints, we're doing a lot of stuff on the server. And when I was thinking about how to solve this, it kind of occurred to me that this problem's already basically been solved. If anyone's a front-end developer, you're pretty familiar with the fact that a browser application has tons of different inputs, has a bunch of async functions that are changing the state. Like all these things come together and they create like this tangled web of state. Unless you use Redux. That is pretty straightforward. Who has used Redux here? How much do you love Redux?
I love Redux.
It makes state management so much easier. It also happens to make a really nice event bus, which is totally not its intended functionality, but basically, I didn't actually put it. Oh yeah, at some point I think I have an example. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so I won't get too much into how Redux works, because that could be like a whole modern white brown bag, and we don't have the time. But basically what happens is you don't modify the state directly. You fire off an action, you say this thing happened, and you make a reducer, and the reducer decides what happens to the state in response to that. And just to give an idea of like how we're getting that generated data, so the devices and the coordinates files that I showed you guys with all the meeting room stuff, it gets parsed by an environment file, which also does like JSON validation against the schema, and then it just imports it as plain JavaScript objects. Then we set our initial state, and we just do a little bit of fancy mapping, just put the coordinates with the correct device, and then that's it. So there's our devices. For each device, we're mapping the coordinates, pretty straightforward. And then this is an example of how the event bus works. So when a client connects, when I open up the client in the browser, it connects to the server, and I have a whole socket controller which governs this. It fires off a Redux action that says, client is connected. Here's the client ID, and it stores that. It actually stores it in a different reducer. But in this one, all it cares about is sending what the rooms are currently looking like. And I have it wrapped in a low function just so I don't like send the device ID and authentication token and all that stuff. When something happens, or when a device is initialized, we're setting the accessories. And that's just so later on when we want to do stuff like use the device's LED or respond to motion, we already have it stored. And when the reservations update, again, we're just looking at the state, and for each room, we're just setting new reservations. And then at the end, when the reservations have updated, we also need to tell the rest of the program that room statuses have updated. When the motion updates, it's kind of a lot to go through, but the basic gist is we get our rooms, we set the state, or we take the state, and for each room, we determine has motion been detected, and this action.motion is actually emitted from a devices controller, but that's basically just tripped if there's been motion compared to the last time we queried it. And if there has been motion, then we set room has had motion. And again, we've changed the room state, so we're going to update the room statuses. And this is sort of where the alert is determined, like all these other things were set, and now we can use them. So from that, we can determine, is the alert different from before? Oh, that's a little bit lower here. So if the alert has changed, we're going to do all this stuff like log it, send it over to the socket controller to send to every client. And if we have accessories enabled, we're going to flash the LED. And here's a devices controller. So there's a lot of back and forth, kind of hard to present it all at once. It's just a convenience method to get our rooms. So this is when we started up. We're actually opening up our WebSocket server. And we're also sending over a configuration, public configuration to any connected clients. So just things like, right now we don't have temperature, for example, working because we don't have any modules to have temperature sensors on them. So the client has a feature like you can show the temperature, and then it's actually like a button in the menu. But if we don't have temperature, it doesn't make sense to let the user even look at that. So the public configuration will actually disable that, and it won't be displayed. Here's where we're actually fetching the room reservations. That's hitting EWS interval. This is actually setting every single board, so it's getting all of our rooms from that configuration file, and for each one it's creating a board, so like an actual board object to control this thing through Johnny 5. And then it's binding the ready action, the warn action, and the fail action. And connect to room, that's where we're creating the accessories. And I showed this in the previous slide in the reducer. We're setting the room accessories, so we're setting along the room and the accessories. And then that gets stored in the state. And then if we have temperature enabled, we're going to actually fire off the event to begin monitoring the temperature. And we're also going to monitor room motion. So this is going to look pretty similar to the Johnny 5 Hello World example, but a little bit expanded. So we're just importing things from their library. Particle IO is just a specific controller library. So Johnny 5 uses Particle IO to talk to Voodoo Spark. It's just a bunch of constants, so we know where all our pins are. And this is what actually registering a board looks like. So in the Hello World example, we were registering a board that was just connected through USB. So you didn't have to give it like any kind of authentication or anything. You just said, hey Jennifer, I've looked for a connected board. But with this, we actually have to give it a token, we have to give it a device ID, we have to wrap it in the particle IO. And we also disable the REPL, because we obviously don't need that in production. So these are actually coming from devices.json. Register LED, just registering an LED with our constants. And these are all just convenience methods. Not actually using the Piezo right now, but I was throwing around in my head the idea that maybe have it beep to kick people out of rooms. Thermometer. Infrared motion sensor, that's this little guy right here. That's it. If anyone wants to actually learn more or contribute, please join the IoT competency group on HipChat. Gotcha, Kyle.
Any questions I guess in reference to what Sean just went through for the second portion. So I guess in recap, the Office Insight, I guess we can call it a suite now of different products that have been built out with the AWS wrapper that, like Sean said, just contact the IoT competency if you want to figure out how to integrate with that. Have any questions for the group here on how to work with that. The Amazon Echo is continuing to do work, and it's been a lot of fun actually playing around with that guy. The web app that Sean has put a lot of time into, it looks gorgeous and integrates very well with the Echo. And then once the internet is working, we can get all the modules set up the way we had initially planned after the first hackathon, which would be really nice to sort of have the suite completed and out there to use. But a lot of cool stuff that has been continued, and like we said, 3.0 is in the works. So just a lot of things to look forward to, and I hope you guys like. Well, I guess we as a group hope you guys liked everything that has been presented today.
One thing to add for Sean's presentation, but all the competency leads are kind of working towards something called study hall French cafe. They haven't really cornered on a name yet, but the concept is that you can pick up any such passion projects. Doesn't have to be related to a competency group. I really wanted to recommend what the team did with Office Insights as one of the platforms that people can just bring their laptops, download the code from GitHub and start contributing if they wanted to, because everyone here has done a great job in writing the READMEs and made it really, really simple for anyone to just pick it up and start adding to it, or reuse it for any other project that they wanted to do. So, do we have the GitHub links posted, Sean, as part of the
I
deck?
can post them. I'll post them in the IoT competency group. So people
And
have
force
to-
people to
so
join.
people
Yeah,
have to
yes,
join.
yes, do that.
So if you want to see it, yeah.
Take a look at the GitHub links. The READMEs are very, very straightforward, and play with it, especially with the GTFO one and also the AWS wrapper if you are just working on some kind of scheduler or you want to take a reference for an LXS skill. Everything's out there. Good example for you to just pick something up and start contributing to. And you don't have to sign up for groups, even though I know everyone else here wants you to. But the idea is to just contribute, right? If you have time, you want to pick something up, don't want to spend too much time formalizing an idea, start building on this.
Yeah, a couple more things. So first of all, I kind of totally blasted through the code. We only have so much time, and honestly, it's a lot of code to drive the modules. But I would love to talk more if anybody has any questions about it. And what I really want to do is stress how easy it is to just get started, especially if you know JavaScript and you've used Node in some capacity. This is where I copied the Hello World example from. So if you're at all interested, just go to johnny5.io, look at this, get yourself an Arduino with an LED. You plug it in and run that code, and it'll run you through actually getting started. And just blinking an LED isn't super exciting, but they have an API for just tons and tons of stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff on here, and there's a temperature one. Oops. There's also servo motors, IR devices, so if you want to control your TVs or stuff, if you want to look at GPS, just a lot of cool stuff to play around with. And that's pretty much it. And the client is live, so it doesn't have a pretty URL or anything, it's just an IP with a port. Unfortunately, I'm not even going to ask IT to help me out there.
Yes, sign the petition for the.
Yeah, prior to
They're showing up, you all have already
get the
signed.
Wi-Fi.
Yes, we consider this as.
Do we have a petition or someone that is actively bugging them?
We take turns, but.
Do we have Cal or anyone that they'll listen to?
We have Dennis,
Yeah,
if you don't
like I
listen
said,
to
no.
Dennis. So I think as far as we know, they've basically said no to every request. we can again, and I know this has been brought up in like the NBC lead meetings and whatnot, but it's a constant request and people are trying to wiggle something out of it or come up with another solution, but yeah, we're definitely on them.
I mean, they wouldn't even open a port for me to make an HTTP request.
Do you guys know what the SAN office is usually?